What started as a Saturday morning coffee date turned into a podcast where we chat about things like faith, family, finances, and so much more.
We're just a husband and wife living this devoted life, and we're here to help you live this devoted life too.
If you enjoy this podcast and want to help support our ministry, there are a few things you can do.
Please subscribe to this podcast, leave us a review, and share these episodes with your friends so that you can help them live this devoted life too. Welcome to another episode of This Devoted Life podcast. We just want to take a minute and thank you for following along with the podcast, for leaving us feedback and comments and just engaging with us. Truly, that is what we are wanting to do with this podcast, is just get to know you as a community and you personally, and to provide information for you that can help you grow and to live this devoted life, right?
That's right, yeah.
And so if you have not already, could you leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or leave us a comment on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube? Any way that you engage helps to boost whatever mysterious algorithm is out there and get this seen by more people. And we truly do just want to be an encouragement to you in everything that we're sharing. And so,
yes.
That was just kind of my little plug for please leave us a review and just thank you for following along.
Yeah, and if you have constructive criticism, feel free to shoot us an email or, just reach out to us, DMs. And we want to get better. We want to provide content that's relevant to you and to what your goals are in life. So, we're looking for the good, the bad, and everywhere in between.
Yep.
Yeah.
So anyways, our previous episode, we just kind of dived into a homeschool Q&A because we want to answer the questions that you want answers to, right?
Yep.
We found that we just started going over in time. It was getting to be pretty lengthy. And so we hit pause on that, and we are picking back up here with this next episode on just more questions and answers regarding homeschooling. And once again, these are not... we have not prepared answers for these. We've done a very glossary glance at them because we want them to be like if you were sitting down with us and having a cup of coffee or whatever and just picking our brains about homeschooling. We want these to be the type of conversation that we would have with you if you were sitting here asking us these questions.
Yeah, obviously you saw these as you basically screenshotted them and texted them to me. I personally haven't even read through all of them or really any of them. So yeah, like you said, it's kind of just our raw feedback and input. So bear with us as we go through the list. But yeah, I think there's some good actionable content in here that not only answers the questions that you have, but also just provides some fodder for the next round of homeschooling, which is coming up here pretty soon.
It is. I actually
another season of homeschooling.
I just said to James, I was like, I might need to take 2 weeks off of all technology because I feel not necessarily behind, but I just want to be a little more intentional with planning out the upcoming school year because we'll start sometime the end of August. And so that is coming up here very quickly.
It
and
is.
I want to be able to go through all of our books and curriculum and just make sure that I like what the curriculum is offering. That is one thing that is amazing about homeschooling is you don't have to do what the curriculum tells you to. So I usually, look about 12 weeks in advance, look at everything and make sure that I like the book choices, make any changes that I want to make, maybe shorten stuff, lengthen stuff, whatever I want to do. I want to at least just have an overall game plan for what our upcoming term looks like. So
so you're saying homeschooling is the Wild West of the education world?
Yes, we are a little rogue sometimes.
That's awesome. All right, so the first question that we have here, or I should say the next question. So the first question of this podcast episode is, how do you carve out time for household chores too, and not distract from schooling?
Okay. So one of the things that I have learned over the years is that I do have to be intentional in this. I was one of those self-proclaimed people that didn't plan things. Like I kind of prided myself on the fact that I flew by the seat of my pants. I can't do that now that I've got 4 kids, a house to run, and I'm homeschooling, right? And so I have had to learn, and I'm still not great at it. James can attest to this. I am still not fantastic at it. He's Mr.
I plead the fifth.
Planner. Yeah. He has all of his spreadsheets. Honestly, if he was homeschool dad, he would probably have way better systems than I currently do, but I'm working at it. I'm getting a whole lot better at it.
No,
But
it's going good.
yeah. So a couple of things that I have recently started doing even is just finding the time, like specific times of day to do things and working on habits with triggers. So for instance, when I mean like triggers, before going to bed, that's my trigger. I'm going to load the dishwasher and start it so that the next morning when I get up, I'm going to unload the dishwasher. So it has like this trigger for me.
Yeah, that's basically the anatomy of a habit, right?
Yes.
So there's the trigger and then, the different action that follows that trigger. So it's not like a negative thing. It's just literally how habits work.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
And getting up earlier. I was not a morning person. I am becoming more of a morning person. I enjoy getting up about 2 hours before the kids because it allows me to get personal time in, and it
They wake up about noon.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. But it allows me to get personal time in, as well as getting a few things accomplished around the home, like unloading the dishwasher, in the morning and having it ready to put all the dishes in so they're not sitting in the sink all day long.
Yeah, in theory, there's more predictability, right? So you're not just being reactive at that point. You're more proactive. And obviously, there's always stuff that can come up. But in general, if you have some alone time, it's more predictable and less influenced by, the kids. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
So I guess get up a little bit earlier is one thing. And then also find things that you can do out of habit, something that just helps you keep the household chores. Or, that Tuesday you do, the toilets or whatever. You have a day that you do it. One thing that I do want to say, though, is I heard something recently that you can cook really good meals, you can have a clean house, and you can homeschool, but you can only do 2 out of the 3 well. And I laughed when I heard that because I have found that to be very true.
Sounds like a limiting belief to me.
Well, you only have so much capacity though in a day, and almost only
totally
so much time.
I totally understand the statement. Yeah.
And if I'm expecting myself to do all of those things perfectly, like it's just not going to happen.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's funny because I think I talked about this in the episode on postpartum depression. One of my triggers was a dirty home, and it really bothered me that when I looked around and I just saw that things were dirty, it added angst to that, new baby phase.
Yeah.
But one thing that I have carried over from that is I have sought outside help. I have someone come in once a month that does deep cleaning for me, like the deep cleaning. Like she scrubs our showers and the toilets. And we have a clean home most of the time. It's picked up.
Yeah.
But just
it might be cluttered with all the kids' things,
Yes.
but it's not dirty.
Exactly.
Yeah, to me, those are two different things. Yeah.
So, like I said, when I saw that, I laughed because I was like, oh, it's actually very true for me. Because if I'm spending all this time cleaning, usually like the meals are, just blasé, they're just probably very underwhelming, but if I am able to outsource something, and I know that not everyone is able to do that. So that's why I started with the habits. If you can set habits, realistic expectations for yourself, and I would not consider us minimalists by any means, but I know a lot of people have talked about how minimalism has helped them in that area because there's less to take care of.
Right.
A cleanup takes 10 minutes because you don't have as much stuff laying around.
Sure.
And we're definitely not minimalists, but if that is
yeah, I think there's a trend towards, we don't just have frivolous things,
Right.
Laying all around. And we go through our things fairly regularly. We donate them. We give them away, maybe sell a few things. I'm notorious for, going through my stuff. And if it has some value and, I can sell it on eBay or whatever, I will. And I don't know, it's just kind of like a cleansing process, essentialism almost, if you will. So,
but being very specific to homeschooling,
Yeah.
I guess, have a block schedule, I think is something that I am learning to do. Have specific times a day where you are all in on whatever it is you have scheduled for that. So for 3 hours of my day, 4 hours of my day, I will have, scheduled for the kids for homeschooling, usually from about 8 to noon is our homeschool time. But I do have after morning time, I send the kids to do individual work. And then I spend some time changing over the laundry because I usually start a load of laundry before we start our morning time. And then I'll usually wipe down the kitchen counters or clean up breakfast dishes or whatever while they are taking care of independent work. And so finding things that you can let your kids do independently while you kind of do a quick spot check, however that works into your schedule. Usually it's about an hour into our school day. I have 15, 20 minutes to myself that I send the kids to go do some schoolwork while I do a quick pickup.
Yeah.
So
Perfect.
Yep. And then, one more thing is having the kids get involved too, I think is very important because you can't be just always cleaning up after everybody.
Correct. Yeah.
So
teach them responsibility and involvement and just how the family should work.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
So we have set times during our day. It doesn't always work like this. So when I say that we do these things, they ebb and flow, but I try to have the kids pick up around lunchtime because that's usually about the time we're wrapping up school. They do a quick pickup. I try to have them do a quick pickup before James gets home from work. And I try to have them do a quick pickup before bed. And so that way it's not just all the stuff all over all the time. They are consistently picking things up throughout the day so that it's not overwhelming to them. And so just getting them involved in, taking care of their things, taking care of household chores, giving them specific responsibilities. Like my daughter's responsible for bringing down the laundry, in the morning. My son, can take the trash out. He's been unloading the dishwasher, things that they can be responsible for because we are a team. We're a family unit. And so we want to teach our kids to work as a team too.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how life works, right?
Yeah.
So teaching your kids responsibility at an early age, I think is wonderful. Yeah, that a good work ethic. God created us to be workers and creators, and having that good work ethic is invaluable. So,
Exactly. And
it's hands-on stuff too.
Right. And it is homeschooling. And so that is one of the beauties of homeschooling is you are teaching those responsibilities as well. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, moving on. We
Yes.
could probably spend all night on a few of these, but
We'll try to be a little faster.
So at what age would you start tracing and learning how to write letters?
Okay, so as Charlotte Mason homeschoolers, Charlotte Mason would tell you that you don't do any formal education until age 7. And actually, scientific study has kind of backed this up. Kids' hands, the bones in their hands are not ready to hold a pencil at a young age. And so just dexterity wise, they aren't ready for that fine motor skill yet. So the thing that you can be doing early though is it's not that you can't be explaining to them what letters are. So as you're reading, you can be pointing out certain letters, or, you go to the beach and you take a big stick and you write their name in the sand and say, this is your name. And you tell them each letter and the sound of the letter.
Yeah.
You can playfully teach them these things and give them big things like a stick to write in the sand with. And that is how I have introduced all letters to our children, is just playfully learning with them and allowing them to interact in different ways.
Yeah, sidewalk chalk. I mean, any of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
So-
science.
It is. It's science. I'll have to find a study or something and link that because I'm
Trust
like,
the
I'm
science.
saying it's science, but then I don't have an actual study to pull up right now. But I have seen x-rays of kids' hands, and it'll show that the bones are not where like an adult hand would be. And they're not ready to hold a pencil the way we hold pencils. So anyways, so no formal schooling until the age of 7 is what Charlotte Mason would say. We start kindergarten, which is usually, age 5, 6.
Yeah.
But I would just start with playful learning. So.
Kindergarten is the best 3 years of their life.
Yeah,
So.
exactly. Stop it.
So next question. What curriculum do you use?
So we use Gentle Feast as our main curriculum. That is a Charlotte Mason curriculum. And I realized I was saying age 7. It's age 6 is what Charlotte Mason would have said. I don't know where age 7 came
those
from.
Charlotte Mason
I know they're
purists
probably
are
going to be like, who
just
is this
grill
girl?
you.
I know. Ooh.
You call yourself a Charlotte Mason follower?
Well, actually, I am Shanda, not Charlotte. And so while I do ascribe to a Charlotte Mason philosophy, I'm not going to say that I am a purist by any means, because I do think that there is freedom within the philosophy.
Wow.
But
all right.
oh yeah,
good stuff.
so we use a Gentle Feast for our main curriculum. That would be, our history, our science, all of our read alouds. The only thing it does not encompass is math and language arts. And we have been using it now for 4 years, and we will be using it again for a 5th year. I haven't felt any reason to change anything because I really, truly love it. The book choices are wonderful living books. And like I said earlier, if you look forward in the curriculum, you're like, I don't like that book, change it. You know, like you're not stuck with that exact book or whatever.
Yeah.
But we have really enjoyed A Gentle Feast because it's one of those things where it kind of just puts it out on a platter for you and you can be like, oh, okay, this is what I can do to implement a full Charlotte Mason feast. And then I can kind of tweak it as I see fit.
Yeah.
We do use The Good and the Beautiful for both math and language arts. I had talked previously about how the language arts is a little like drinking through a fire hose. If you want to know a little more about that, listen to the previous episode because I went into a little more detail with that. I love their math. We've been using that since, this will be our 7th year with that math, and I love it. It does currently only go through 6th grade. So I am hoping that The Good and the Beautiful gets on board and gets the next several years out so that we can continue to use it because we have really enjoyed that one. I am adding in Sabbath Moods science curriculum this year, just making that a little bit of a change. We are still using some of A Gentle Feast's science recommendations, but there were a couple things that I wanted to tweak just a little bit, so I will be adding that in as well. I'm trying to think if there was another curriculum that we'll be adding in. Oh, we're actually going to be doing a physical health curriculum this year, which I think is really fun. That is something that you were talking about.
Yeah.
You're like, I really think that our son just needs to hear how to be healthy from someone else. Like, we talk about it regularly, but
and I try to lead by example. I work out, 5-6 days a week, actually, some 7 lately, and so I want to lead by example, but that's not the whole story.
Right.
And that they aren't getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning with me and, working out. So instead of just kind of letting them just see it in a way, then there's curriculum or a program that really dives in. We don't have a lot of hands-on first-hand experience with it yet, but so far it looks really good.
Yeah, we were looking through it the other day, and I have looked through it a little more extensively than you did, but it's called the FORM curriculum, FORM, and what it does, I think it's like 180 some lessons, and each lesson is a video that is, it's like a drawn lesson with a voiceover, and it's very engaging to watch, but it teaches your child about why it is important to move your bodies. And it goes into just the macros and the nutrients and how to move your body, and just gets really detailed with those things. But it's a short lesson. It's like 6 minutes, I think, is the longest that it is. But each lesson also includes other videos for a warm up, how to do physical workouts, and a cool down. Yeah. And so it's a whole big thing, but
it's a holistic approach.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep.
But it is done from a Christian perspective, which I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about how that is all incorporated. But they use Bible verses to back all of it up about how we are created in God's image and we should be taking care of our bodies, and just they have little devotionals that go along. I need to look into it a bit more to see how exactly it is woven into each lesson. But the few devotionals that I read through were wonderful. Like they had Bible verses that just talked about, running the race or whatever, but then it applies it and then it asks questions, reflective questions to get your child thinking about, how am I stewarding my body?
Sure.
And so I'm really excited about this, if you can't tell, because it seems to be a really good curriculum, and I'm excited to implement that with our kids this year.
I think there'll probably be more to come on that. We'll do a follow-up, but that's a great reference.
So I think that's like all that we have. I'll put links to all of these curriculums in the show notes for you guys, because we do have affiliate links for these, because these are ones that I believe in and have been using personally, and really do think that they
for years. And the first ones that you mentioned.
These are tried and true for me, and I will put some affiliate links down there for you. And even if a couple of them are not affiliate links, and I will just link them for you, because they're ones that I believe in and really do enjoy. So
awesome, good feedback there. So The next question is, do you finish all your curriculum during your school year?
That I do.
Okay.
So we have, well, maybe I actually need to back that up just a little bit. We do finish the curriculum every year, but I did have a moment 2 years ago where it got really nice. It was like mid-June and I was
got spring
personally
fever?
done. I did. I
Oh,
was
man.
personally just like, I am done. Actually, it wasn't mid-June, it was mid-May. Cause I try to be done by June 1st every
Okay.
year.
Yep.
And I was like, man, I just want to be done. And I was getting really frustrated. And then I realized I'm the teacher. We don't have to finish this. And we finished the bulk of everything. What I'm talking about is literally just math.
Did you get approval from me on this?
No, I trumped that one. But we had like 10 math lessons left. And I was like, we got to finish these. And then I realized that's not helping anybody. And I flipped through everything to see what was being taught. And I was like, anything that's being taught in the last 10 lessons will be gone over at the beginning of the next school year. And I looked at the final exam and I was like, oh, he can pass this. And so I had him take the final exam and I was like, we're done for the school year. Like that was it.
So if he struggles in Calc 3 and differential equations,
You can come back to third grade math. Yes.
Major gap in his education.
Yeah. So, but in general, I do finish all of our curriculum in a school year. That doesn't mean that I am doing it all within a certain set of days because I enjoy doing all of our read alouds. And over the summer, I get very ahead on those. So I'm not saying that it has to be done, all of it by June 1st, but I actually try to front load a little bit more of the stuff, do some things over the summer that are enjoyable, that just kind of naturally work into our day. But in general, I do try to finish our curriculum.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. And again, that flexibility is part of homeschooling,
Exactly.
right? So be structured, be motivated, but also maintain the flexibility.
Exactly.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. Next question. Balance between having school time, letting them free play when the outdoors is calling.
Oh, I think I literally just touched on that with
You
the
did,
last
yeah,
one.
Yeah.
I think that is just a judgment call and just using wisdom, because obviously you can't always just be playing outside. Now, I do highly recommend taking your schooling outside.
Okay.
So on really nice days, pack it up and go and sit on a blanket outside. Everyone will feel better. I have gone out, especially in the fall or like late spring, if we're trying to finish some stuff up. I'll take a blanket out, we spread it out, bring out snacks. We sit there, we do a lesson, and then I say, hey, take 15 minutes. And they'll go run around and do whatever. And then I call them all back and then we'll do another lesson. And honestly, like, they pay attention quite well during that, because they know they're going to get that opportunity to go run and play. We're already outside. It's fun. It's different. I have a friend, Kindle Togetherness, on Instagram. They do, I would almost say, the majority of their schooling outside. She packs it up regularly. They spend like 8 hours a day outside. They're going to waterfalls and she's bringing all of their reading along. I mean, they have a very formal structured time.
That's awesome.
But that is something that they do. They're in a warmer climate than we are. Like once it's winter, we're just here,
Just packed in for the winter.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, that is something that if that is a desire for you, I don't think it has to be an either or. I think it can be at the same time.
Sure.
And if you do feel like we just need a day off for all of our sanity, take it. But also do remember to be structured in what you're doing as well. But there is that flexibility in homeschooling that is so wonderful.
Yeah, especially in the early years. I mean,
Exactly.
they make those memories and just let them kind of get those wiggles out when they need to.
Right, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, good. All right. How to stay on track and keep records of work and progress starting kindergarten this year.
Okay. So that is one of those things where I do look at our curriculum and it takes 36 weeks. So I know how many weeks I need to plan out. And then I go through and I look to see what vacations we're taking, what breaks I want to take around holidays, that type of thing. And I say, okay, when do I need to start this? And when will we be done by if we follow this?
Yeah.
There is some wiggle room in that. Sometimes I'll condense a week if I need to, or if I find something that I want to do and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm going to throw something out or whatever. There is flexibility within it. So I don't want to say like, be super structured, but you do have to have a general idea of how long something is going to take you to do. Now, each state does have different record keeping requirements. Michigan does not have much at all. Actually, we don't even have to tell our government that we are not putting our kids into public school.
Over here in Michigan,
at Midwest. But that doesn't mean that I don't keep records of things, because if something ever were to change or someone were to question something or whatever, I want to make sure that I've been keeping records. So I have 2 ways that I do that. I plan everything using a Trello board, which basically is just an online resource where you can plug everything in and literally just check it off. And I'll put in, we're reading this book, these pages on this day, and I check it off. And I'll go through and I plan it by term. So I will put all of term 1 in, and then as we're nearing the end of term 2, I'll put all of term 2 in and start checking it off as we do it. That just helps keep me on track.
Right. Yeah.
And it also is one of those things you can actually print off your checklist and it'll show exactly what you've accomplished if you ever had to show what you are doing. So I loved Trello. I actually have like a Trello template for a Gentle Feast that if you are interested in purchasing it, it's like $5 or something like that. I can link that in the show notes. So that is one way that I keep track.
Is that on your website?
It is, yes. So I will link that. And then the other way that I do it is I do exams at the end of each term.
Yeah.
And so those exams have actually been really fun. They're all oral, and I'll just sit and I'll type it out as the kids do it. Or if they have something where they're drawing something out, all of that goes into a binded system. And so at the end of each year, they have something that says, their name and then year 1, and it shows their exams for 3 terms. And so if anyone just needed to look back and be like, okay, they're not really taking any tests because Charlotte Mason doesn't do tests. My examinations are just a representation of what they learned. I basically cherry pick the stuff that I'm like, they were interested in this.
Yeah.
I want them to tell me about it, and then they tell me what they learned, and then I write it all down. And so in their own words, they'll tell me about Abraham Lincoln. They'll tell me about the Industrial Revolution. They'll tell me about whatever. And I'll have that all in a little binder that I can pull out and be like, well, this is what he learned for 3rd grade, you know? And so if anyone ever questioned it, I do have records, even though I'm not required to keep them. But if you are required to keep them, the HSLDA website, which is the homeschool law, something or other website, they are a wonderful resource that'll tell you exactly what you need to submit to the government. They have all of like the documents.
This is not legal advice.
No,
Do
not legal advice. Go there, find out what your state requires of you, and kind of go from there.
Yeah.
So
awesome. Very good. So you actually just touched on this a lot, this next question, but it says, if not following a curriculum, should I follow state standards?
Well, yes, because you have to follow state standards in order to be compliant or whatever.
Or do you?
Well, it's funny because
we recommend you go to that website. She just said.
The bad answer is go to the website, learn what your state requires of you, and then
kind of start from there. If you're not going to start with a curriculum, right? Yeah.
But be creative in how you are fulfilling those things, because there are some things that are required of you. And it's like, okay, you could be outside and that is like your science for the day because you observed birds or whatever. Like you can get creative with these things, or you spent the day at the lake and it's like, well, there was your gym credit or whatever is required of you. So you can get creative with how you are fulfilling the requirements of your state as well.
Perfect. Sounds good. Good stuff. So next question, how do you teach second languages like Spanish or Mandarin?
So we do try to incorporate Spanish into our day. I have not been very diligent in this, so I'm just going to be totally honest with that. But I do love TalkBox Mom. The reason that I love that is because as Charlotte Mason homeschooler, Charlotte Mason was a huge advocate of native speakers, learning the native tongue just by listening to the words being spoken. And so TalkBox Mom is a great curriculum because they use native audio. They have a native speaker speaking it to you, and you're not learning single words. You're learning full phrases. And as your child is hearing full phrases, they're feeling confident because they can ask for a drink of water.
Sure. Yeah.
In Spanish. And it's not just like a little kid saying water, agua. They can actually ask for a full drink. Like, I want a drink of water, you know? And so they have this, what's the word I'm looking for? They feel accomplished by learning it this way, because how do your kids learn to speak?
Mm-hmm.
They learn to speak by listening to mom and dad talk. They're going to learn the native language simply by being immersed in it. Yeah. And so that's how I try to teach a foreign language to my kids, is by immersing them in full sentences. Kids are smart. They will start figuring out how it all fits together and changing words out for things. And it's
very adaptable too.
Very adaptable. Yeah. So we really enjoy that curriculum because it teaches from native speakers and it allows your child to speak full sentences.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if they were to want to get TalkBox Mom,
I will put a link for that in the show notes as well.
There you go. Perfect. All right. There's a question here. Where do you find your curriculums? I think you've kind of already touched on that. Anything you want to add there?
Yeah, maybe I'll just kind of reiterate. You kind of need to almost know what type of homeschooler you are first. Yeah. Once you kind of find which way you're leaning, you will naturally be gravitating towards certain curriculums. Just Google searches. Honestly, this sounds silly, but Instagram is fantastic. Like, if you just start searching the homeschool hashtag, you will be connected with so many moms who are doing really well at homeschooling. Mm-hmm. And if you're like, wow, I want to do what she's doing, just find out what curriculum she's using. She'll probably be able to talk to you for 10 minutes about it and be super excited about it and be able to help you get it started. And so that's, once again, the beauty of homeschooling is not all homeschools are going to look the same. But if you find someone that you're like, I like what she's doing, what is she doing? How is she doing it? Just start following that person and ask them what curriculum they're using.
Yeah. Is it @devoted_motherhood?
It is.
Yeah,
yes.
That's a great place to start.
Which I am considering changing it to this devoted life and maybe bringing you into it a little bit more.
Man.
So
the pressure's
stay
on.
tuned. Yes.
Yeah. Actually, you heard it here first, folks.
I know. I'm putting it out there.
That would be a good idea.
Let us know.
Let us know. Yeah. You might be the voice that just gives us the nudge.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So, did you ever fear your kids only being as smart as you are?
I love that question.
Yeah, it's a good question.
It is such a good question. I'm going to say no. And the reason being is because I, as a homeschool mom and teaching my children to love learning, I have never stopped learning. Mm-hmm. You have never stopped learning.
Yeah. We're lifelong learners.
No one ever stops learning.
Yep.
So I am not afraid of them only being as smart as I am. Mm-hmm. I want them to soar past me if they can. I want to give them the tools, the resources, the desire,
the goal. Yeah.
The ability to go beyond me. Yep. I would love it if they did.
Yep.
And as a homeschooler, if my child is excelling in an area that I am maybe not as capable as they are, there are so many resources, tutors, curriculums, whatever that are there to support them. So that was a conversation that we had early on, because you were like, well, what if we get to a point where, we just can't, excel in this area for them? It's like, there are endless resources out there for us. So that is an amazing question. I love that question. I love that you are thinking about that. But I also want to just encourage you and embolden you that don't let that ever stop you from pursuing homeschooling, because it is not something that can hinder you. If you have this desire to homeschool and you want to just instill a love of learning in your children, you don't have to worry about your personal ability.
Yeah, and kind of worst case scenario, it might urge you to expand your horizons.
Exactly.
And really, yeah, there's so many resources, like you
Mhm.
said, so many resources that that it will be a good thing if
Mhm.
that happens, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Charlotte
if
Mason
they push
actually
the envelope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Charlotte Mason actually talks about staying one step ahead of your
Hmm.
child. And so you can be reading the books before reading it to them, or you can be reading it with them and go,
Yep.
wow, I didn't know that. Like,
Yeah.
that's really cool. I
Yep.
have found that with our education right now, with our homeschool, there have been many times where I was like, I wish that I was educated like this because I didn't know that. I
Yeah.
went to a public school. I was like, I would have retained so much more
Yeah, for
with the
sure.
way that we are homeschooling. And
Yep.
so it's been
And
a really good education for me.
yeah, and think of how much deeper the bond is when you're learning something
Mhm.
together too.
Exactly.
I think, to me as a child, that would have probably motivated me a lot more.
Right.
Learning that with my teacher. And it's not like they're smarter than you or whatever at third grade, but there's little nuances and
Mhm.
facts and truths that it's like, no, we're all learning this together. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, it's like if I go, I didn't know this,
Mm-hmm.
that shows them that as a 36-year-old adult,
Mm-hmm.
they can still be learning stuff
Yeah.
too,
Yep.
And so that's just the beauty of that.
It
Yeah.
is. Yeah, that's awesome. All right. So I think this is actually the last question
Woohoo!
that we have here. We actually kind of skipped over quite a few,
A
but
lot of them were redundant.
yeah,
And
somewhat
so,
redundant, maybe a little, few nuances that would have, overlapped or not. But yeah, so last question. And it has a little homeschool slang lingo in here. Subjects for kinder, science, and social studies. So I'm assuming kinder is kindergarten?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
In the little box where you can type, you're only allowed so many characters. It's just probably just shortened it to
I
Kinder.
see.
And I use Kinder.
It
It might be,
makes
maybe it's
so
some
much more
homeschool slang,
sense.
but so for kindergarten, I only do math and language arts.
Okay.
When I say that loosely though, because as far as social studies and science, I believe that children should just be immersed in nature. And so that is their science. You are creating wonder in them. You can be out in nature and, see a caterpillar and say, wow, what color is it? What shape is it? Do you
Mm-hmm.
see any other colors? What is this? What is this horn on the back? Do you think it's a stinger? Like all of these things, you can be
Yeah.
asking them questions about it. You never want to give them an answer, but you can direct their eye to different things,
Mm-hmm.
A bird, like what shape was its beak?
Yeah.
What color do you see? You're creating in these early years, especially, and kindergarten is a wonderful time. I would recommend even starting this before.
Yeah.
You can be teaching them to observe, and,
Yeah.
and that will take them so far. That is the foundation of science right
Yeah.
there.
And I think when you say you don't give them an answer, you don't start with the answer, right? You ask
Right.
open-ended questions
Yes.
and spark that imagination, that curiosity.
Yes.
And yeah. Yep.
And then
that
if
makes
they
sense.
have a question, I try to either have them figure out the answer to it, or if there's just not a clear answer, I will give them an answer for
Yeah,
it.
for
Or
sure.
if I don't know, because there's a lot I don't know, we'll find like a book
Let's
or like
look
a
it up
field
together.
guide. We'll look it
Yeah,
up
yeah.
together. So that is as far as your science goes. I really just want to encourage you to, in kindergarten, get your kid outside, and that is your nature,
Yeah.
or is your science. Read books about things in nature. There are
Yes. Yep.
so many good picture books on like ants and bugs, and I guess ants are bugs, but the birds, weather, just all the things. There are so many good picture books out there that you can just be reading with your children. I don't think it needs to be anything where you are using a formal curriculum in that age. I think you want
Yeah.
to stick with the wonder. And as far as social studies goes, get your kids out socializing. I know that sounds kind of silly, but
Yeah, no,
take
it's-
them to an assisted living facility and have them meet people, and that is fantastic.
Yeah.
Get them into situations where they're meeting a different culture or whatever. You can take your children to like the Japanese gardens, that we have in our area, or you can take them, just wherever.
Yeah,
And
honestly, you can go volunteer, handing out meals at a soup kitchen or a homeless shelter or things like that. Obviously, it's a very structured environment. It's usually a very safe environment. Within those walls, of the soup kitchens and the rescue mission or whatever it might be. And that is the epitome of really caring and learning about your community and others, and just making a difference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for kinder, I think we just kind of said it, but I'll kind of break it down again. Math and language arts, we use a curriculum. Everything else is nature and just time spent in society.
There's that Wild West again.
Yeah, there you go. The homeschoolers of the Wild West.
That's right. Yeah.
So, you've been asking all the questions. Do you have anything that you want to add to it?
No, I think you obviously, have the most experience, hands-on experience. Like I think it was in the previous episode we mentioned that we communicate a lot with each other. So, they get the dad perspective within the homeschooling, even though I'm not here, with them on a daily basis. So that influence is there, not only just as a parent, but within the school. And I love math, not necessarily just math in and of itself, but I love using math and taking data and creating information from it, all those things. And so I think as a spouse, whether the dad's homeschooling and the wife is, the breadwinner per se, or vice versa, whoever's teaching or not, that influence is there no matter what. And you can just really be involved in the decision making. A lot of questions about the curriculum.
I call in the principal regularly.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like when you were researching curriculums, you would tell me a lot of things, and sometimes I was just like, I trust you, great, sounds good, but if nothing else, I think it's good to say those things out loud, just kind of get them out of your mind instead of just going over and over and over things and being, kind of paralyzed by perfection or that analysis paralysis or whatever you want to call it. Talk with your spouse, make sure that they're on board with everything. And so then it's a group decision. And if for some reason it starts not working out, then remember it was a group decision, and you can pivot as a group, as a unit, and those the decision making process.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you said that, because I remember early on, before we got into first grade, I was researching different Charlotte Mason curriculums, and I presented a couple to you in very condensed format, and I was like, I don't know which one to do, and you were like, why are you not doing this one? It sounds like a clear winner.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, thanks. I just needed you to tell me, this is it.
Exactly.
Now
Give
we've
you the nudge.
We've used a gentle feast for 4 years, going into our 5th year. And that was one that you were just like, I don't know why you're not just doing this one,
Yeah. The way that, and I'm a very factual person. So once you present the facts to me, I don't usually second guess things. It's like, nope, that one sounds like the right path. Let's go down that path.
Right. Yeah.
Let's not overthink this, even though I do definitely analyze very thoroughly.
Yes. And as you're researching curriculum, don't be paralyzed by perfection, because it's one of those things you can make a pivot if you need to, you know. So
you won't ruin your kids by, starting down a path and then thinking, we need to pivot and go down this other path.
Exactly. Yep. So hopefully we've answered a lot of your questions. I know that probably opened up a lot of more questions. So please send them to us, and maybe we can do a follow-up episode. I've really enjoyed doing these Q&As. I think this is fun because it feels like we get just a lot of information out
very
there.
Diverse perspective, and just a lot of different little nuggets of I shouldn't say truth, just feedback and our perspective on things.
Exactly.
And some truth, obviously.
Yep. So if you can't tell, I'm passionate about talking about homeschooling. So if you ever want to, send me a DM or whatever, I would love to talk to you.
Yeah.
So until next time, seek God, love your spouse, hug your kids, and stay devoted. Thank Thank you for tuning in to This Devoted Life podcast with James and Shanda. We appreciate your support in sharing biblical, uplifting truths with the world. If you found value in this episode, please leave us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us to improve the show, and we'd love to hear from you. Be sure to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. To learn more about how to live a life devoted to God and family, head over to thisdevotedlife.com. You can also follow me, Shanda, on Instagram at devoted_motherhood. Thank you again for listening, and we look forward to seeing you next time on This Devoted Life podcast.